Happy Halloween, everybody. It's your favorite redhead, Chris from Futon Talks.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
Joined, as
You
always.
got Amy Adams, Isla Fisher.
I'm better than all of them.
I think I agree with you.
And I have the best Josh ever, Joshua Castro.
That is true. There's not a lot of good Joshes.
He's everybody's favorite Peruvian.
I think that's probably true.
I mean, I can't think of another Peruvian man that I like more than you.
You got my grandpa. He's a good dancer. But
You're not a good dancer.
I'm an awful dancer. So that takes me down a couple pegs for
True.
the Joshes. And the Peruvians. But
You're a disgrace to your
I
whole
am a
kind.
disgrace to my race.
To your
Dude,
race.
I don't even speak Spanish hardly anymore. Talk to me 2 years ago.
What
I
have
can
you
speak
become?
Spanish. I'm just a failure, man. I don't herd pigs. I've never been to Machu Picchu.
You're just like a visage of your former self.
Whoa! Ayo!
Ayo. This is Futon Talks. You can be a supporter on patreon.com/Futon Talks to keep us going, just like our good friends Emmett and John. And hopefully many more.
Oh yeah, join the family.
Obviously, before we get any further, hit like, subscribe, write a comment. I don't know.
Write anything.
Write anything at all.
Like anything at all. Just write the words Frankenberry. Write Cormac McCarthy is a great children's author. Write anything you want. It'll be there and we'll like it. We will like any comment you put.
This is true.
It can be horrible. We'll still like it. We don't have a choice.
No, we have a gun to our head. We're forced to do this.
Comment your top 5 redheads. Don't do that.
Please don't. But Josh, how have you been?
Dude, I've been great.
You're looking good.
I've been wonderful. We recorded Little Nightmares yesterday. Ooh, a little behind the scenes action there.
Whoa.
It's been a good time. Actually, we didn't record that yesterday. That was 2 days ago. Time is nothing. But things have been great. I've had this week off from work because it rained. I do construction, so if it rains, that means you don't have to work because the ground is important to that industry and you can't really dig and pour cement. Anyway, so it's been really cool. I've been able to go get lunch with my wife every day.
Whoa.
It's been awesome.
Sounds nice.
It's been really good. It's been a really good time. And then we've been watching Stranger Things again in honor of Spooky Day. It's been fun. I think that show is not underrated because everyone loves it and it is super famous. But I really like it. It's just a fun show to watch, you know.
I'm glad.
So,
Good for you.
I know it's probably not up to your level of quality. You know,
It might be. I've only seen the first season.
It's good. I like it, man. I like it. You should watch it. But that's all I've been doing. Playing a lot of Ghost of Tsushima.
Nice.
It's a fantastic game that I did not play because I'm an idiot. And what else? Nothing. And that's how I like it. Editing this show, being with you, my friend, playing
That's right.
Visage. Been spooked by that.
Yes, if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail or my bad segue,
Or by your ability to see.
we are talking about Visage or Visage, however you want to pronounce it. I don't care.
First of all, I don't
don't
think it's a
care.
very good name.
We'll get into that.
Thank you. There's so much to get into.
There's so much. Let's just 100,000 feet in the air, looking down at
Whoa,
Visage.
I like it.
You like it?
Oh, I mean,
Oh.
I liked what you said.
Oh, thank you.
Also, I like it, I think.
I like it as well. This is one of those games that we played together because of how spooky it was, and because I think that's a good experience, you know.
I
have
think
a
it's the
good
best way
scare
to
with
play a
friends.
horror game. You know?
Maybe.
I think it depends on the game.
Yeah,
If
I don't
you're
know
playing,
about the best way to play a horror game.
I think it's the best way, personally. For games like this, horror games of this style, I think it's the best. I think being scared is about 10 times more fun when you're with somebody.
Yeah, probably. You might be right. But yeah, Visage. It's a game by a dev called Sad Square, and
Sounds almost like, and it's a blue box. Actually, if you look at it, it's a blue box.
And it came out in 2018 on October 2nd. And I have never heard of it until a good friend of the show, Jeremy Williams, said that he would pay me $100 if I beat Visage.
Really?
I told him I am a trophy away from the platinum, and he said, I am not paying you that money. And I understand. That's a terrible thing to promise someone.
Especially to promise you.
Yeah.
All you do is finish games.
Unless it's Deathloop.
That's true.
But so I just gotta say, thank you to Jeremy Williams.
Thank you to Jeremy Williams.
It's a fantastic game. It's really good. Doesn't mean it's perfect.
I think there's a lot wrong with it.
Oh, for sure.
I think if you like take the experience of playing the game and separate it entirely from like the narrative, it's a good game. But I feel like the narrative is like,
we'll get into that.
I really dislike it heartily, actually.
So before we go any further, I'll give like a quick synopsis or whatever, but 3 words for Visage.
Definitely like spooktacular. Like one of them is
Whoa, that's a big word.
It is a very scary game in a good way, I think. I want to say frustrating, but like not really, you know? Because I think it's getting the right effect from you, and I'll say effective. So spooktacular, effective, even though that leads to a bit of frustration. I think they played their cards right in regards to pacing and like telling you what to do.
Sure.
It worked out in the end, but it was a little bit annoying during it. So I would say effective, spooktacular, and like a weak finisher, in my opinion. Even though it's non-linear, but I'm not referring to like which chapter was best, although the 3rd chapter is.
So maybe you'd say it's almost front-loaded.
Not even that. It's not about where it like how good it is
in the beginning,
linearity-wise. It's it doesn't deliver for me. It's like when all the curtains
There's
are pulled
no fruition.
back.
There's just like
it just it's like it doesn't live up to everything. It doesn't live up to what it should. I don't know if that makes sense.
Anticlimactic is the word that people use, I think.
That is a good word for
the
it.
Exact feeling that you feel.
But not really, though. It's not like anticlimactic. It's like, it's more like this. It's more like it is less than the sum of its parts. You know what I mean? Where you put everything together and there's some really good ingredients, but it comes out being worse than like any of the ingredients in my mind. Yeah. So that's how I feel about it. That was more than 3 words.
It's fine.
My 3 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they'd be spooktacular, effective, and bad.
Perfect. I would go with fun.
It is fun.
Silly. And the one that came to mind first, and I felt this when I played it alone by myself for the first time. This is before we even thought about doing an episode on it. Was paralyzing.
Ooh, yes.
And we'll get into that. But quick synopsis, like overview of the kind of vague story. You really have to pay attention. You start off with a warning saying that the game is really hard.
It's really hard.
And you have to pay attention, which you kind of do have to pay attention.
It's a little hard.
It's more like paying attention in a video game is like you just click on everything until something happens. But yeah, if you want to do things right, you kind of do have to pay attention. There's little details everywhere throughout this house. But you start off with a scene where you kill your family. That's what you assume is your family.
And I want to say as well, I'm realizing like how desensitized I am to this stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I watched the opening, I was like eating popcorn almost, you know? And like it's bad, of course. Like you don't want to see a kid get shot.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked. Like, oh my gosh, there's like a little girl and a boy.
And like a teenage boy. And it's bad, you know? But then I look at like the comments or I hear what other people have to say about it. I'm like, I'm too used to this.
You should almost feel worse. But I think a part of that is he takes a really long time doing it. It's a floating gun at the time. Like you don't have a hand.
The thing is, I watched an early version and he had a hand.
Weird. Maybe it's because he should still have a hand in this part of the game.
Takes too many polygons on the PS4. Not capable.
But yeah, I guess also spoiler warning, I guess.
We're gonna spoil this game.
Obviously. But I haven't spoiled anything yet. It's legit the first 2 seconds. You kill this family, then you shoot yourself, and then pops up Visage or Visage, and then you wake up in a very PT-esque room. This game is very heavily inspired by Silent Hill, this franchise, and then Silent Hills itself.
And I would say especially Silent Hill 2
and 4.
And 4.
And
obviously
Shattered
4.
Memories.
It's inspired by all of them.
But exactly. But
there's like
franchise.
specific elements from a couple of them.
Yeah. So you wake up into this house. It's completely empty. You get a telephone call from your neighbor, Rose, I think.
That's right.
And she's just telling you, like, haven't seen you in a while or whatever.
Hope you're okay.
But you start exploring the house. Early on, you figure out that there are things that start happening, like lights flickering or burning out.
Doors closing.
An electrician, and you fix those lights.
Probably should.
If you try to escape, you can't. That's a trophy.
That's right.
And there are 3 key items in the house. One's a picture, a children's drawing of a panda. One's a crutch, and the other is a little key with a mirror on it. And these 3 key items lead you down these story paths where you are exploring the previous owners of the house. Everyone who's lived here. So you have Lucy, from like 1961, and she's a little girl with her 2 parents, and then you have a man named or a woman named Dolores who's with her husband and her child, and then you have a single man named Raken who is disabled or was just hurt, or I guess he wasn't yet, right? He was walking around the house when you're exploring.
Yeah, I think he gets
hurt. But these 3 people who are heavily disturbed, and from playing the game, you find out that you, Dwayne Anderson, worked as a chemist, kind of, and you, through a long line of like nightmarish stuff, you find out that you possibly poisoned the well. Let's say you are giving this neighborhood LSD and just making everyone kind of go crazy. And this is all based around the real thing called MK Ultra.
Oh, yeah.
And so you just find out it's kind of like you're in this house, you're kind of in purgatory, and you're kind of facing up to what you did to the people who are living here. Even though you may not have done anything to Lucy in 1961, and the game takes place in like 1985, I think. But somehow you have affected these people's lives, and you're kind of facing up to it. And then if you get the good ending, which is just finishing all the chapters and finding out what you did to this ink man or tar man named Lewis Taylor. I think he was your friend.
What did you do to him?
I think you killed him in that water area.
But like, in real life, what did you do?
I don't know.
It's so vague.
I wish I knew. It's pretty vague. But you were co-workers, and something happened to him. I just assumed that you most likely did something to kill him or hurt him.
Yeah, that's what it implies.
Maybe you threw him down a well, because the well is, there's a lot of imagery with the well. Good ending. I guess good ending. You do all these things and you see how these people died, and then you get these pieces of mirror mask that let you go back to a time where the house wasn't haunted, but you see your family again. It kind of doesn't make any sense because
it implies you go to heaven.
Yeah, it kind of implies that.
Like you're in a nice, happy, bright place and you're with them.
Yeah.
It certainly implies heaven.
It's just odd. How does it, like, with our, basic knowledge of how the universal knowledge of getting into heaven, like how that would work, is that, like, you're a good person, that, yada, yada, yada. But it doesn't seem like Dwayne learns his lesson.
Or changes,
but it's just odd. There's a bad ending where if you keep going down to the basement where the gun is and you keep shooting yourself, on the 7th time you end up in the void, which is the well. So yeah. That is the very, like, skin deep story. There are other things that go on, but yeah. Should we let's talk about playing the game.
Well, give me your opinion on the story first. Like, we can talk about that since we already just did the whole story.
The story is it kind of loses me at the end. And I love the whole MK Ultra stuff, and I love that, like, this isn't like haunted stuff. These people were being drugged and going crazy. And like Lucy and Dolores were going to the same psychiatric ward, and them being drugged, they both harmed themselves. Lucy ripped her jaw off due to, like, this imaginary figure or demon that she saw, and Dolores hung herself after she killed her husband, thinking that he was going to poison her. So there's some very sad stories. There's some very silly stories. Dolores for me is still the strongest chapter, I think.
I think so too.
Lucy is a close second. And then we'll get into Raken.
Distant third.
A very distant third. It's hard. I don't know if I wanted there to be a happy ending, because the happy ending just doesn't make any sense. I feel like it should just end.
Like,
I don't know how
it could. This is the problem with this game. It could have a happy ending if Dwayne wasn't so bad. Like it's just weird that the villains or the antagonists, I suppose, of the game are these poor people that just suffered from mental illness and drugging. And, like, they're portrayed as monsters, like this person with several phobias, a person that has schizophrenia. That's Lucy. She has the hallucinations and the auditory hallucinations. And then Dolores, who suffers from dementia, several of which wouldn't have been caused by LSD. But they're just normal people that happen to struggle with mental illness, and they're portrayed as monsters to, like, run from and be afraid of and, like, kill. And there's no real ending to their stories that feels satisfactory for Dwayne.
How it ends up.
You just see what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's these monsters that are just victims of fate, essentially. And then you're the protagonist, and you, like, shoot your family.
It's a very, so Dwayne is an alcoholic from doing all this stuff. He feels very guilty. You find the VHS tapes with the different feelings that he's felt, guilty. There's the indifference that his wife tells him, that she's tired of how indifferent he is all the time.
His neglect.
His wife hates him. She's only with him for his money in that one scene.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think that's his
perception, maybe.
It's like his demons telling him that.
Probably.
I think his wife loves him,
Yeah.
He's just an awful father who can't get over it.
But then in the end, he feels so guilty that he kills his entire family and shoots himself.
He's
like
just
he's not a likable person.
He's so bad. Like he's so outrageously bad. You know? Like what if they just had it be a mother who like miscarried and she's guilty because of that, but like you don't have to be guilty about that because it's not your fault. But it has a relatively similar effect.
Yeah.
Or a father who killed his family in a car crash because he was tired. Okay, same effect, but like you're not like a murderer, like a straight up family killer.
You're not this person who just didn't care about anybody's feelings, was like, okay, I'll drug this entire neighborhood or this like house or whatever.
Yeah.
And ruin people's lives.
It to me really doesn't make sense. He's just so bad.
But then again, like the MK Ultra stuff, like how could you not be a bad person, kind of? Because I don't think we're supposed to feel happy about Dwayne. And I almost feel like the Void ending is a better ending.
I think it's a better ending.
Because...
And it's not like it's what he deserves. It's just
yeah.
the logical conclusion, you know? Plus, MK Ultra mostly didn't work like that, right? From what I've read, it seems like it was people who volunteered to be participants in the studies, and it didn't go well for them, but they volunteered.
I've heard stuff where...
There's also the possibility that it's not even real.
Yeah.
Like, there's all sorts of stuff about MK Ultra you can read.
Mm-hmm. There's like stuff about like pharmaceuticals or pharmacies being given LSD to give to people. Here or there, really.
But I like the idea that he was doing that. I think that's cool.
And the whole thing with there's like the neighbor Rose, who had a really cool story going on, I thought, where she was kind of like, there's these pages of a comic book that you can find that tell her backstory, and she has just been watching like the residents of this house over like the last 4 owners. Like she's worried about the baby with Dolores, and she's worried about Lucy, and she's accused of being attracted to Raken when he's there. Like he's the bachelor guy who's very tall and muscular. And then in the end she kills her husband, and that was a very like disturbing story, and
best story in the game.
Pretty much. And plus, there is an order to how you're supposed to do the chapters, but we did it in
a super wrong order.
Super wrong order. You're supposed to go from Lucy to Dolores to Raken, and we did Dolores, Raken, and Lucy. But I don't know. Like, I thought starting with Dolores was really good, very effective.
Could have been the whole game.
It
was perfect.
But is there, before we get into like the chapters, is there anything else you want to talk about with the story?
Just that I think it's, and this sounds like weird or like not pandery, but like high and mighty. But I think it's like almost irresponsible portrayal of like mentally ill people. Because like there's certain things where it's like narcissism and like psychopathy or like psychopathy. These things can actually lead to violent or like dangerous behaviors. But even then, on their own, if you're just a narcissist or if you're just a psychopath, like they don't necessarily lead to anything other than a totally normal life, you know? But there's a dark triad, where there are certain things which can contribute to a violent personality or a possibly troublesome, I suppose, one that could really hurt people. But like, if you're schizophrenic, there's like no odds that you're going to hurt anybody, you know? And same thing with dementia. I mean, you might hurt people, but not physically, you know? Dementia is something that happens to like 1 in 3 adults. And so it's, you know, I thought it was a really weird portrayal of like dementia and schizophrenia. And then Raken just suffers from agoraphobia, or like a range of different phobias. He's just fearful and delusional, which comes with phobias often. And so it's just weird to me. Maybe it's because I took all those psychology classes recently, but it just seemed like we shouldn't portray people with normal mental illnesses, or not normal, that's not the right word, but
common
or at least non-violent mental illnesses in a way that will make people, and granted, this is a problem across all of media, you know, but it's just like, I don't know. That's just what it made me. It made me a little uncomfortable that way, where it's like,
interesting.
These are normal problems, and these poor people are like, how would you feel if you were like a schizophrenic and this is the only way you're ever portrayed is like this girl that rips her jaw off because she's schizophrenic, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think the LSD is making it go to such a point that it's like so exaggerated.
But they don't make the LSD obvious ever. I think the LSD is a jump. I thought he poisoned people so they died. Like, it never occurred to me that he was
in the
doing
chem lab,
anything with LSD.
In the chem lab, there's LSD stuff.
Yeah, but it's not obvious.
Well, nothing's obvious in the game.
But I'm just saying, if you just do a normal playthrough, all you see are mentally ill people like trying to murder you. I wouldn't say the LSD is obvious in any sense. Like when you said that, I was like, what? I had no idea that this was involved, you know? I knew that Dwayne was taking drugs, but it just never occurred to me.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. I think that's my main problem with it. And then the person you play as is such a horrible person, they get a quote-unquote happy ending. Not that that's the point.
The happy ending doesn't make sense to me. It was very off-putting. Because, like, how do you get to, like, it's not like Groundhog's Day where you keep doing the same thing over and over again until you get the right formula for, like, how you're supposed to do it, and then the cycle stops. I don't know where, like, we didn't really do anything in the game to be rewarded anything. We just kind of saw.
I think the problem is it's too vague for character development to occur. And I think Heaven or A Next Life or whatever is all about character development. It's not about necessarily the things you do, although the things you do reflect your character and do influence the way you develop. But I think it has a lot to do with who you are. And obviously, I don't think he's a very good person.
Plus, they don't give Dwayne a voice, really.
Yeah.
So you never know what like, I know we're supposed to be Dwayne or whatever. But he doesn't have a voice to maybe clarify anything. You're seeing yourself through everyone else's eyes.
Yeah.
Or your inner demons or whatever. So it is very odd.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be such a downer.
I don't know.
And it's not like a rampant problem. It's just something I noticed in this game that I thought was really bizarre. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just don't know if there's a...
I think you could just make people bad people. Or make it more obvious that they're being affected by another thing.
Yeah.
They should have made it more obvious that it had something to do with the water supply. Because it also doesn't make sense, because then no one else is being affected by it. I guess it's the pills through the pharmacy, but then it's like, oh, is that really him? I guess it's because he's manufacturing the pills, but they don't really say that. It should have been like, oh, he's in a place that makes pills. And then it should have been, the thing is, Lucy doesn't even take pills. She takes syringes, which isn't like a thing you take. Anyway, so it's just... They should have made it so there was obviously something in common between the three people, and they should have made a more obvious connection between Dwayne and the thing that they were all taking. Otherwise, it's just random. It just feels so bizarre and random. I thought it had more to do with the house. I had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd lose narrative power by letting the viewer understand what was happening a little more.
Yeah, maybe I agree that they were too vague. They need, for the gameplay, yeah, be as vague as you want. Yeah. Let us figure it out. But when it comes to the story, the only real linear story that we understand is Rose's. Yeah.
And even then, you have to find comic book pages for it.
Yeah, which is fine. There's only 6 or 5. But with the ending, this doesn't seem like a story that gets a resolution. I don't think it should be resolved.
It doesn't feel like a story. But yeah, I agree with you.
Makes sense because you're just stuck now. you're in purgatory forever or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into the house. How did you feel walking around?
The skin of a 9-year-old woman.
In the skin of Dolores.
The skin of Dolores. Felt horrible, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. I will say, despite everything I just said about the story, I think the story is pretty hard to see anyway. So play the game because it's really good. You know, I think it's a great horror experience and a great game to play for Halloween, and it's just awesome. It's an awesome game, especially because the story can take such a backseat that it doesn't even exist. So just don't pay attention to the story. It's pretty easy to not do that. But the house has such a great atmosphere. It is just horrifying. Super dirty. Everyone was pressing their thumbs on every reflective surface. Like, it's disgusting in that house, you know? There's mud everywhere. But it also looks really beautiful and lived in. Mm-hmm. Like, it looks realistic, you know? Like a realistic house that people have been squatting in maybe or something.
Yeah.
But it's also new. It's hard to explain. And it's very oppressive, very dark. I love the atmosphere. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go back to one of my 3 words. It's just paralyzing sometimes. There's some deafening silence throughout the house and emptiness. It's such a dense feeling that you can cut it with a knife. It's so tense in there, even when nothing's going on. And that's something that the game does pretty perfectly, is keeping that tension there. And I kind of talked about with you while we were playing. It never happened, but the game always made me feel like the worst thing was about to happen, or like the worst thing to me would happen. Something that would get me really good, but most of the time it never did. Obviously, because there's some things you just can't do right now, especially with this game, which seems not low budget, but it's the AA area, or even lower than that.
It's a pretty budget.
Yeah. It's phenomenal what they were able to do with what they had. But they got the tension down, they got the atmosphere down, they got that feeling of, I don't want to be in the dark.
Yeah, you panic.
Very afraid of the dark. But at the same time, it made you feel like I'm not safe in the light. It doesn't matter where I am. Something's going to happen.
Because they can turn off the lights.
They can just turn off the lights. They'll close doors in front of you. They'll turn lights on. And some other crazy things happen. And it's kind of random. It's not perfectly random. But there are some things that catch you off guard. Like, we died a couple times and we'll do the same thing and we'll have a different outcome. But yeah, this house is so huge, and it kind of makes sense why it's so huge, because with each chapter you kind of are able to go through another part of the house, and it's just like that was the architecture of the house at the time. It's almost like a time travel thing.
And I was impressed by how realistic the house was layout wise. It definitely feels like a real place. Like, I mean, it has a weirdly large amount of stairs to the basement, but other than 3 entrances to the basement,
pretty big, realistic house. Yeah,
it feels like a real place, which I think is an achievement.
And it's kind of ugly, which was just kind of like the style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they have the worst couches, and yeah, I mean, they did that so well. I mean, I want to keep my eye on this studio for a while, because they got some of the stuff that the biggest games don't get well.
Yeah.
You know, they got it down. Like, even, this is kind of a bad comparison, but like newer Resident Evils don't quite get this level of tension or dread. Oh, just going down hallways and just being like, I can't do this anymore. Getting like a headache because of how terrifying it could be.
They're really smart about holding back. You know, like there are a lot of moments where a door next to you will just creak open and it doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know,
there's nothing behind it.
Yeah, and so you go in there and you're like, what's happening? You know,
there's this perfect
there's
level
nothing there
of slowly building up to something, and it's some of the more subtle things that are more terrifying, especially when you get close to the models, because the models suffer terribly from budget. Like they ran out of money when they were doing the face models. Yeah, I love exploring the house, even though I don't really love it.
It's funny how well you know the house. Like, you know it so well. I know where everything is in that house.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool feeling. Like, because I watched a couple other people do a couple other things in the game just to see other people's impressions and to see what it looked like before it was on PS4 when it was in early access. I wanted to see if there were any changes. And I was like, why don't you just go there? There's the light switch. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I know where everything is.
That's funny. I wonder if there's stuff that we still haven't seen in the house. Because, like, I wonder if there's more areas where you can take the sledgehammer and break something.
I feel like there has to be.
There has to be. But yeah. And, like, man, I hate basements, and they make you go into basements a lot.
So often.
And the attic is creepy,
and I commend them because nothing ever happens in the attic.
Nothing ever happens in the attic.
Nothing scary ever happens.
I've heard
there.
something, but I've never seen it.
So it's like, good kudos. There are a couple instant deaths, but they're still scary. Like when you die, it's like no longer scary. But like when I walked into that room, and the door locked behind me, and the other door locked, and then the other door locked, and I was just like turning around in circles, not knowing what was happening. Yeah. The mirror room, it was genuinely horrifying.
Oh, the mirror room is so terrifying.
It was awful.
Honestly, the mirrors. It's Dolores' chapter. Should we just start going into the chapters how we played them? Yeah,
and do we want to start with Dolores'? I think it's both of our favorite. Do we want to start with good and end with bad?
Yeah, let's do that. Or great, bad, good.
Yeah, there we go. That's a nice arc.
Yeah, Dolores, you get the mirror key, you open the mirror room, you find this giant mirror under like a cloth, and then it disappears, and then there's 11 mirrors scattered throughout the house. And it's terrifying.
It is also easily the most straightforward.
Yeah.
And it does not suffer for it. Because some of the other chapters are like, just wander around until you happen upon the thing you're supposed to do.
Until something happens to you, yeah.
But with Dolores, it's like you immediately find a mirror in a really obvious room, and then you are like, oh, I look for mirrors, and then you go from there.
Yeah, do you want to start with this, or?
Yeah, I love this. It's so good.
So effective.
It does a lot of the creepy things that I wanted to keep happening. You know, like you'll see Dolores peek around a corner.
Oh my god.
Oh, it was horrifying. Or you'll see Dolores across the house in the doorway of another room flickering, and then when it stops flickering, she's gone. Or I found her to be so much scarier, and they added those little touches so much more often with Dolores. At least it felt that way.
No, absolutely.
And even though her chapter was the longest, I still thought it was easily the most enjoyable. Was it the longest,
or were we just like
wusses
bad and too scared to like play through it, and that's why it took so long?
I think it was longest.
It probably was. You have to do 11 puzzles, kind of.
And you have to find them, and you're exploring the house.
You do them in a certain order and stuff.
I think it was the longest.
Probably. It's crazy to think, like, because I was with you. I also thought that how Dolores was played out, the mirrors, I thought were just part of the game. I didn't realize that it was a Dolores thing.
Me too.
That's what made it so terrifying. Also, this is bad design, but if you're gonna title the chapters 1 through 3, don't make the first one the furthest to get to.
I know. The other two are like at the bottom of the stairs, and then like
2 and 3 are at the bottom, and then the first one is like up the stairs, down to the right at the end of the hallway.
A hallway which is not lit.
Yeah, it's a very dark
go.
hallway.
Bizarre.
So bad design, but
although I will say I think Lucy's is a more overtly scary beginning, but I think Dolores is more scary in a more quality way for longer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I agree. There are some things, yeah.
It's like the highs of Lucy are scarier, but Dolores is consistently more scary throughout.
Yeah, it's that heavy feeling of dread, of not wanting to look around the corner, because she was the only one where she would look down a hallway and she would be peeking around the wall and then like go away. Or one time I was playing alone in the garage and I saw the door open to go into the basement it was lit up and everything, and I see her and she turned off the light. And when it's dark, like when you see a dark room, you can't see anything, and it's terrifying. That's what, just a heavy feeling.
And the car alarm goes off.
No. Oh my gosh. The game is just so paralyzing. You can't move.
It's horrifying.
So effective.
Oh, and there was just much more. You just saw her a lot more, but somehow she remained scary. Like, you'll look down a hallway and she's standing at the end, like twitching, and then the light bulb goes out and it's dark and you have no idea if she's still there.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like...
Yeah, and you get into the stuff where, you go through the mirrors and you find a sledgehammer in the garage after a horrifying thing happens with a tall naked man or lady.
Gosh darn it.
I mean that garage is so scary.
It's one of the scariest places in the house is that stupid garage.
And it has like the Winnebago, right? Yeah. So you get the sledgehammer, and then you can break all the mirrors, and you go into the mirrors, and they lead to somewhere else. And after you do that, there's that one. I forgot if it was a mirror or if it was after you completed all of them, but all the mirrors were in a row, like in a circle.
Oh yeah.
And you just keep walking around it, and you start seeing Dolores in them. And then there's like one where she's far away. She gets a little closer. You get to the same mirror, but then she appears in the other one. She starts walking towards you. And then there's the one where she's hanging. And it's just so terrifying until the point where she's like looking at you. And you want to turn around and look at her, and she's not there. But then when you turn back, she like flies through the mirror and lets you proceed through the story. But
horrifying.
This one was obviously the most influenced by PT.
Yeah, I would say so.
She's very much like Lisa in the playable teaser, and the whole beginning is the most like PT. It starts venturing off after Dolores' chapter, I think.
The funny thing is, I think this is both the best chapter, the most polished chapter, the one most involved with the house, and yet at the same time, it wasn't the first one they made. You know, they made Lucy's first.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. I think this one's quite a bit better than Lucy's, and I like Lucy's.
I think it is too, and it definitely feels more like you're exploring the secrets of the house, kind of. You go through the attic and you drop through this like secret door that leads into the parents' room, and all the stuff with you go through the mirrors and you find the baby's toys, and that unlocks a key to get into this like little box that has what did the box have? Another key, right?
I think it had either like a gramophone or something. It was like a music box.
Oh, was it the crank for the...
I think so.
Yeah.
And then you played the...
And then you have the audio cassettes of Dolores' husband saying like her condition is getting worse and worse, and she's talking to herself. She thinks I'm going to poison her.
Oh my gosh, when you have to sit down for tea with Dolores.
Yeah. And
spooky.
There's the one where you play kind of as her husband. She hits you over the head.
Yeah.
And like accuses you of poisoning her. And there's the part where you find the husband in his like library.
Stab.
Which you never go to ever again. It's so weird.
I know.
Or I guess you kind of do, but you find him stabbed 7 times or with 7 knives. It's just so cool, and it makes the house seem so much bigger than it even is, even though it's so huge.
I think that might be why it's the best chapter, is because it really does occur in the house. And the other 2 chapters diverge from the house a lot. And
with Dolores, you're right, you do see her more often, but she still has that level of terror. Like you'll go down the main hallway, the scary hallway, the L-shaped hallway. Mm-hmm. You'll turn the corner and she'll be in the TV room standing there. Very PT-esque, but that doesn't really happen it doesn't happen at all with Raken. And I don't think it happens at all with Lucy, except for certain parts that are out of the house.
Exactly.
Or they're more scripted parts.
Yeah.
That it occurs.
They're not as organic.
But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love Dolores.
I'm so glad you feel the same way.
Oh, yeah. Terrifying.
I want a Dolores game.
Yeah.
She was so scary.
Seriously. Yeah, do you have anything more about Dolores before we get into Raken?
Just that I think the house is the best part of the game. I think that Dolores is an example of that, know? Because Dolores, that chapter plays to the strengths of the game, which is the random paranormal events and the house and how they work together to make such a terrifying experience.
Yeah.
And Raken, the least scary one, is such a huge departure from those things. And I think that's why it's just not as good.
Yeah, I guess we'll just get straight into Raken. Which, by the way, terrible name. I don't know if it's Rakan.
Okay, let me look. It might be like a name from a certain country or something.
It might be, but he looks white.
I thought he looked white too. But my impression was maybe he was a war vet or something.
Maybe.
I have no clue.
I agree with that. Like he looks like a Vietnam War vet or something.
Yeah.
He's very Frank Woods.
Oh, hello.
Those block
Pulling him some cod.
But you look up where that comes from.
It's a Muslim name or an Arabic name.
Oh, okay.
So it means noble.
Oh. Was he?
Was he like Arabic?
Was he noble?
No.
Nope.
Interesting.
I already told about the Dolores, like what she did, right?
How she killed herself?
She killed her parent, or she killed the husband, hung herself, and the baby died?
I think the baby had already died, and I think... Oh, no. I don't remember.
Because she puts the baby in the carriage, right? And then she hangs herself.
Yeah, so the baby probably died. Probably starved to death.
But yeah. Raken.
Oh, Raken.
What a stinker.
What a stinker he is. Not scary in any way.
It starts interesting, like with the wheelchair, but then you see what happened to him in the house. He's by himself, and he thinks he's being bugged, which he is.
Yes.
You are literally the eyes watching him.
Mm-hmm.
And he there's one part where he shoots his gun thinking it's like an apparition, and that's when Rose the neighbor calls the cops on him.
Yeah.
And that's when he gets put into the psychiatric ward. But man, when you are put in the psychiatric ward, it turns into a crummy Outlast clone that I just can't be bored enough with.
It's weird. I mean, the hospital looks great. I think, at least. I think it looks nice.
It's effective at first.
Yeah, and there are parts that are spooky. You know, when the one part where you have to run through all the folks as they're walking around. It's a little frustrating, but if you were to get through it on your first try, I think it would be effective.
Pretty exhilarating.
Yeah. Good chase sequence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, and this sounds bad, but Raken's just not threatening as a chaser because he's like hobbling around on crutches.
Yeah.
You can run in the hospital. You can't run anywhere else.
Sprint.
But you freaking
zooming.
Like you're going quick, you know? And Raken's like, you know, it's like you can just walk backwards, you can crawl backwards faster than he can walk. And so it's just like, not effective at all
is really
as
bad.
being scary. Anyway, and it's composed mostly of these sequences where you find an exit, Raken chases you slowly.
Well, actually, we don't. So at first,
This was cool.
Yeah, you see him walking around, and then you find the exit where he jumps out the window and escapes the psychiatric ward or the hospital, and that's how he breaks his legs. So then from then on, he's not scary because he's unconscious. But he's also not scary because his model is very weird.
But he just looks funky, and his hair looks weird. It's
like it's black at some point, but then it's like bright white because the lighting is bad. The models, the physical models, are just not great.
And Raken's is the worst.
Raken is definitely the worst.
He's just not scary. There are a couple. Like, I would say the baby doll face thing in Lucy's chapter, to me, is just not scary looking.
Yeah.
And it's just a personal thing. To me, it's just not scary.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason. It should be, but it isn't. But yeah, Raken's just not a very scary guy. There are some cool things that happen in this chapter that I thought you were going to talk about where it'll just completely change how you do the puzzle.
Oh, go ahead.
Which I thought was really cool, and that's a good thing about this game. At one point, we found a key. So you get into like the room where Raken was being tortured the second time you're in the hospital. Or not tortured. He's being like sedated because he's trying to murder people.
Yeah.
But anyways, you go in there, and then you look through a hole in the wall, and you see a key on the wastebasket in the next room. So you're like, okay, I need to go in there. And so the first time we played the level, because we had a horrible mishap that forced us to replay like half the game. But the first time we did it, we just found a key somewhere, and we walked in the door on the other side, took the key, got out of there. Mm-hmm. And the second time we played the game, we had to go find a crowbar to break the wall we looked through, got the key, and left.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool that they put in the effort.
Very neat
to do that.
I almost wish we failed more during other parts of the game to see if there are other outcomes or paths to certain conclusions.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, then there's like 3 chase sequences, one after another. Dealing with the faceless people, who remind me of like Silent Hill Homecoming with the nurses. Just how they move around, almost like there's a strobe light on them. Mm-hmm. Very weird at first, effective at points. Scarier than Raken, which isn't a good thing if you want Raken to be the big bad of this chapter or whatever.
Could you imagine if he was in a wheelchair? Because there's a portion where you run from him in a place where you can like crawl under barbed wire or crawl under a fence to get away from him.
Yeah.
And he kind of like goes like this. Like turns around. But I can't imagine him doing like a 5-point turn with his wheelchair.
Be faster in a wheelchair.
It would. Oh, actually, he could turn right in place. Boom.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought.
Yeah, the hospital is just, I think, really ineffective.
I think it is. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
But it's because you don't have the sanity stuff there. And so nothing can ever happen unless it's supposed to. Yeah. And he can't turn off the lights on you because you really can't turn them back on. And you don't have the pills, so you can't save your sanity. Uh-huh. And I think it has to do with that, where the hospital just doesn't play to the strengths that the house does. But it could. Mm-hmm. It looks creepy. There's some creepy parts.
Dark hallways. The crying lady in the bathroom that you never figure out.
Comes to nothing.
Yeah. It's very odd. Like, why is the toilet broken? Who broke it?
Big old dump.
But the more interesting kind of part of the house, or of this chapter, was the house with the eyeballs that are in the paintings. They watch you, and that was pretty cool. I imagine it is how Raken sees it almost. Mm-hmm. The eyes are in the walls, and they're in the paintings, and they're watching him all the time. And I assume that the LSD is making the house look as it does. And just crazy, just like nightmarish. But you're not in the house for very long.
And my problem with it
And it
is
blocks
that,
off like all the rest of the house. It's
it's only the little places you can go.
It's the foyer and the TV room.
It's odd. And the pills are too effective.
Yeah.
Especially in sequences like this when you know to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, see, Dolores was good because it could happen at any time. It didn't matter how sane you were. That was like her showing up and like spooking you from across the house was the event that drained your sanity.
Yeah.
Right? But with these parts, I think the parts where you're like on Easter egg hunt looking for the eyes to poke would have been a lot better if you were being consistently chased.
Yeah.
Or being chased off and on, or being blindsided by being chased multiple times while you're looking for the eyes. But if you just take pills at the beginning, you never get chased at all.
Yeah, you can just like prepare for something to happen with the pills. Yeah.
Take some pills, you know.
No, it would have been better.
Tell me.
Is if instead of Raken chasing you in here was the Tar Man. He would have blended in with the walls. Mm-hmm. He would have been the one who was like watching, you know.
Oh, that would have made so much more sense. Because the Tar Man is the one who takes him down. Him down in the beginning.
So that would have been way more effective and terrifying. When I see the guy in crutches, I just run away a little bit and he's gone.
Because he can't catch up.
He can't catch up.
What if Tar Man could just like go through walls too?
Oh,
like, and he can, but like, you know, you walk around a corner, he just starts coming through the corner.
That would be great. Just like those few times, like in one of the mirrors, he walks down like across a hallway and he phases through like the wall, or the part where with the VHS tape and the light bulbs, how he's like standing at the end of the hallway and the lights go off.
Spooky part.
Yeah, you find out that Raken, he ended up being locked in a room and dying, right?
Yeah.
How does Raken even end?
No one knows, dude. The door shuts on him and he just kind of dies, I think.
Yeah, I think he just dies in the room alone.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Because he falls off his crutches and starts crawling and he can't get back up.
It was pretty funny. Like, not that he fell, but just like his dialogue is pretty...
Yeah, the dialogue
oh gosh,
is pretty bad.
Especially for Raken.
Especially.
Like, it's not particularly good elsewhere. I think it's good in Dolores' chapter.
Maybe it's not bad. It's just not delivered right.
It's just funny.
It's very silly.
It was probably the only time we laughed out loud during the game.
Yeah.
It's like a Scooby-Doo cartoon almost.
Almost, yeah.
It's like a vulgar Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
You meddling kids.
He's like, oh, I know everything now. I'm going to get him.
Yeah. Very silly.
My gosh, it's hilarious.
But then we were... Oh, thank you.
Look at that.
We finished Raken's chapter, and then we're looking around. I was like, where is this? The last one. But it's the first one. And it's upstairs on a door, and it's a drawing of a panda. A pretty good panda.
Lucy was a pretty good artist.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about Lucy.
Lucy's very spooky. Do you think Lucy was a reference to LSD?
Probably.
Lucy and the Scout Diamonds.
Yeah.
Lucy starts off so strong. And then I think it really falls apart right where we quit the first time we played it.
It's when they introduce the demon that's talking with her.
Yeah.
The mask thing.
I think it should have just stayed a shadow of hers, you know? So pretty much what happens, a brief synopsis of how it works. You find the panda, you aimlessly do random things for a little bit, you go into her room, all the doors shut around you, which is always horrible. And then you see a drawing of her and the demon in the closet, and it says knock knock, like she's been knocking and he knocks back. You do the same thing, it knocks back, it's horrible. You go do a bunch of stuff, you find a molested teddy bear outside her door, and then you go back in the room.
Yeah.
and a couple other little experiences happen. It's very scary. And Lucy shows up at one point, and Lucy is a very, very, very spooky model. She's this little girl without a jaw.
Yeah, done very effectively, except for the parts where her hair clips through her eyeballs and her mouth.
Which just, it takes you out of it a bit, you know?
Just a teeny bit, yeah. But there was just random events, because we played through it twice. We didn't see Lucy the first time until downstairs in the TV room basement. Yes. The second time, I remember walking down the hallway trying to trigger whatever the next sequence was, and in Lucy's room, so I'm like by the brother's room, I see a shadow move in her doorway, and the door is kind of cracked open. I go over there, and we see her sitting down. So she eats a bird through the drugs and through the influence of this demon that she found, John, I think. We see her just like
chowing down,
sitting on the ground, chowing down, and then she appears behind us. Terrifying.
Killed us.
But very cool. Like, oh, this could happen. But we never really saw her again in the house. This could be also a thing where we knew to prepare with pills.
It could be we were doing too good.
We were too good at the game. But you find out that you're supposed to go down to the basement, like living room where there's another TV, and you see the TV, and then you see in the storage room someone just standing there. Terrifying.
Through the TV you're looking at, it like changes from what you were watching to be like a camera looking at something in the basement.
Very well done. The shadowing or the shading of Lucy's character model is so well done. It looks so realistic.
She's fabulous.
Just a silhouette with like a white gown. You just kind of see the front of her calves and then like her hair drooping forward. And she's twitching. It's amazing. And then you go down there and you get the camera, which is, I think, a really cool thing. I wonder, because we got the camera the last chapter, what if we had the camera throughout the other two chapters? Could we use it somehow, find things, see things? It would be really interesting to go back, which I am for the platinum.
The camera's cool.
The camera, very much like Shattered Memories or Fatal Frame. Very, you never, like, you click it all the time because the game trains you to, which I think is a bad thing. But in this beginning part in the house, you don't ever want to flash it because the game is so mean. It takes away all of the light switches from you.
It puts them in a box in front of you.
Yeah. So your only source of light is either your lighter or flashing the camera, which can make Lucy appear in front of you.
It's horrifying.
It's terrifying. But yeah, you're kind of led through these drawings on the walls that you can only see through the camera. And it leads you back into Lucy's room where this drawing that she made of a red door leads to memories, right?
Yeah, like her imagination or something.
Yeah. And it leads you to a tree house. There's one where it's a tree house, the room with the miniatures.
Yeah.
And then the room full of wardrobes, which I assume is where John lives, is the wardrobes.
Yeah, it seems like that's the deal. Some closet, some wardrobe, he likes it there.
Yeah. Just one more thing before I want you to talk to me about John, but the thing that was so effective for Lucy, the last effective thing for me with Lucy's chapter, besides her lurking around the cages,
which was horrifying,
terrifying.
The cage room was probably the scariest single part of the game.
Yeah.
Until we figured it out, then it wasn't scary at all.
Yeah. But there was a part where you're in this room that's just stairs going down and stairs going up. And you have to do this in a certain order for you to unlock a door. But going up the stairs, it's pitch black.
Oof, yes.
And I just randomly decided to flash my camera, and she was standing at the top of the stairs looking down at us, but she's not really there. And that was just terrifying.
It was horrible.
I wish I never did that. But this is also a part of the game where you kind of have a sense of security because you know nothing really is going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
The game begins to lose its danger, let's say.
This is a weird statement, but I feel like horror games should be 5 hours long. Because once you get to about 5 hours, you start to feel that way. You start being a lot less afraid of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Resident Evil, you get overpowered. Evil Within, you get a new weapon. Dead Space, you're overpowered.
And you just stop being afraid of dying.
Yeah, you're afraid. You're not afraid of dying. It would be interesting if, like, almost in a pathless way, like the game, The Pathless, if you could never die.
Yeah.
So that fear of dying is always in the back of your head because, like, it hasn't happened yet. I don't want to die,
but I could.
But I could. Yeah. Facing the fear of dying in the game is, like, it happens pretty quick.
Yeah, when it happens, you're done.
Especially when you're not afraid of the models anymore. But yeah. We'll get more into that because, like, after the certain chapters, you kind of feel secure in the house.
Yeah, because you're not in the chapter anymore, and you're like, what's going to get me? Tarman? He never even shows up.
He never shows up, but you see the splotches around. Nothing happens. But talk to me about the mask.
So this is also where the function of the camera changes, is the introduction of John the demon. And I think it's a really big detriment.
It really is.
Number one, I don't think John's scary enough. I feel like even if he was just like a black presence, it would be scarier than the weird doll mask with like the Edward Scissorhands fingers.
Maybe if he was the cover of the game.
Yeah, or...
the thing with the veil.
Yeah, or like just a Dementor. We talked about how scary those were to us as kids, you know? Some cloaked dark figure. Or even if it was just Lucy and she got into like possession mode. Like bird eating mode, you know? Anyways, the function of the camera, though, is that if you flash it once or twice at John, he goes away. And so, and you can see him. Like, you know where to aim, and you can hear when he's about to come. It became too easy to live, I think.
Or you started to predict exactly what was going to happen and when.
Yeah, and you constantly just flash, because you knew it would save you. And there were a bunch of times when I was playing when it did save me. When, like, I was going to die, and I was like, flash, you know? And I don't think it serves the same function as in Fatal Frame, where you have to look at the monster to kill it, you know, because I can already see him. So, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it does.
But, so he's not scary because he really can't kill you if you're just flashing the camera. I don't think his design's very scary. And he's up against Lucy, who's terrifying.
Very terrifying. Little girls in white dresses, always terrifying.
Always. Doesn't matter what you do.
If they're in a horror game, they're scary.
That's right.
Hers is probably the most effective, though. That losing the bottom jaw is very disturbing.
I wish, this sounds bad, but I wish that, like, her hair below the jawline was, like, matted with blood.
Ooh.
Then it wouldn't have clipped through her face as much.
That costs too much money.
That's right. Those blood effects are too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good. And then it kind of ends pretty abruptly.
Really abruptly. Because you get through this section with John, and then I'm pretty sure that you just go watch her tear her jaw off in the bathroom.
Yeah, you go into the bathroom, go into the tub, which takes a long time to fill up for some reason.
Really long time.
And then, yeah, you watch her tear her jaw off while her parents can't kick a door down.
Yep. And the acting between the parents is just not very good.
Terrible.
It's just weird. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
It's everything about it is just bizarre, you know? Like, also, it'd be really hard to tear your own jaw off. Like, I found that to be... It took me out of it a bit, actually. Which it would have made more sense if something else happened. But
yeah, if she like cut herself with the broken mirror that's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Like, it was cool, and I get that. And like, yeah, the jobbing rooftop's scary. You know, the tongue can like hang down.
Hanging herself in the treehouse.
Yeah, or just
something a kid could do.
Or if there was actually another person involved, where you think it's some apparition, but in reality, it's like a guy living in their
What if it was
attic.
Rose the neighbor?
Yeah,
that would have been cool.
And then I think it would have been scarier if something happened to Lucy and no one believed her. You know what I mean? And like, you know, you don't want a little girl to have horrible things happen to her, but it's horrifying, and that's the point of horror, right?
Yeah.
So I think it would have been a lot more effective if no one believes her, the parents don't believe her, the medical professionals don't believe her, but there really is something or some person that is
someone living in her bedroom, like in the closet, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of silly that she would tear her jaw off.
Like, that would be so hard. Yeah. But I get it, though. But yeah, I think you're with me.
I think sometimes gore like that makes things less scary.
I think so. And because of that, this section fizzles for me.
I agree. And honestly, the whole thing with John...
Yeah.
You didn't need a big scary monster.
No, she was terrifying.
Yeah. So after Lucy, we are just free to roam the house and collect all the VHS tapes, which tell the story of Dwayne. And just like kind of like his memories or things that happened, like being at the chemical plant, or there's the rowboat that leads to the lighthouse.
Drinking an inordinate amount of alcohol.
Yeah, buying a bunch of alcohol at the store and
taking some pills.
Yeah. It's I like the VHS tapes.
Me too.
I really like them a lot. I like that you put one in and then part of the house becomes something else.
It's like the mirrors.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's awesome.
The mirrors and the VHS tapes are the best parts of the game. Especially because they deal with the house.
Exactly. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. They were very clever, and they all treated getting into the VHS sequence very differently. I thought it was great.
Yeah. It was very refreshing every time. Like, you didn't know what was going to happen next. But when you're just around the house and you start seeing Lewis Taylor's or the Tar Man's splotches everywhere, he really should have appeared for us.
I really wish he was more involved, that he was there more often.
Yeah.
It was a big bummer because it was not scary at all getting the VHS tapes and dealing with them.
Yeah, it was almost like, for me, I think you probably felt the same way. It was like cleaning up the trophies.
It was. That's exactly what it felt like.
It's like, oh, I just need to run, do this, done. Mm-hmm. All right, we're done. But yeah, you get the VHS tapes. You don't kill yourself. You're back with your family.
Go to heaven.
That's basically it. Is there anything else? Is there anything I missed that you want to talk about? I mean, we talked about Rose, Dolores, Lucy, Raken. No. Is there anything else that we're missing? We talked about Tarman a little bit.
I think that was perfect. I mean, I think we portrayed pretty well, you know, how this game feels to play, especially, and then the quality of the chapters where the Lucy really fizzles out, Raken was just funny, and then Dolores's was great. It's the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
And the VHSs are awesome too. The only problem with the VHSs is that's where the narrative is, and I don't like the narrative. So,
and I wonder if like we were supposed to do the VHS tapes while playing the other chapters.
I think so,
and not just wait to do them all as the last thing. So I don't know.
I thought we played it in a good way. I enjoyed our experience of it.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting.
I think everything else will be covered in fast ones.
Probably. So, would you like to start? Do you want to go back and forth? Do you want me to start?
Let's go back and forth.
Okay. Who's first?
And I can start. Also,
okay.
Did Jeremy ask any questions?
No.
Jeremy! Gosh darn!
He didn't play it.
Coward. Just kidding. Ask questions next time. These people will be suggesting games, don't even ask questions with it. Here we go, though. I got some tasty fast ones.
Ooh.
Which main antagonist would you fist fight? Say it.
Lucy.
That's right. She doesn't even have a mouth. I mean, come on. What an easy weak spot. Punch her right in the tongue.
I mean, it'd be pretty mean to say I want to punch a crippled man.
Well, it's pretty... An old woman, a little girl without a jaw,
Yeah.
or a crippled dude. That guy would beat us up.
I feel like Lucy has the best chance.
I think we have the best chance of murdering Lucy with a fist.
Yeah.
I think Raken could beat us, actually.
Really? You just take a crutch away.
He'd smack you with his crutch.
Yeah, but then he's just balancing on one. You can just kick it.
That's true. Maybe they're all easy to defeat. Maybe Dwayne's a loser.
Maybe he is. He is an alcoholic.
That's true. We could probably beat up Dwayne, too.
And he is suffering from stress, according to his pills.
I think you're right, though. Lucy is the obvious choice.
Yeah.
What's your target when you punch her? You punch her in the face, or you punch her in the mouth hole?
I'm taking the mouthful.
That's right.
I'm taking the rest of her teeth away.
What's she gonna do? Bite you?
Oh, that's a good point.
No, she can't. It's like a hammer.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm glad we agree. Well, that was my first fast one.
Okay. So, if not Visage, what should the name be?
I have this question as well.
Okay.
Dude, I tried to think so hard about what they could rename this game because Visage is not a great
I gotta say,
title.
Visage is kind of effective. It sounds kind of horror-esque because the first word that comes to my mind after Visage is village. And the village has a lot of horror elements.
This is
got
very true.
The Village. You got Resident Evil 8 Village.
You got the village section of Resident Evil 4.
You got the village section of The Evil Within.
Hello.
It just sounds like a scary place.
So Visage sounds like a good name.
It sounds like a good name, but it's not.
I agree. It's like I agree. It sounds like a good name for a horror game, but I don't feel like it makes a whole lot of sense because I've thought about it. Like Visage means a face or
An expression.
or an expression, but I don't feel like that super applies, honestly.
Thinking, like, it may be a bad name, but something that invokes like a ripple effect.
Ooh.
Something
like the butterfly
because
effect. Like the butterfly effect.
yeah. Because Dwayne starts something and it affects these people, these lives. Or an echo. Something that invokes that same feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word it. It shouldn't just be one word.
Yeah.
Unless you're very clever and you can figure out a word.
Unless you're a clever little guy. I love that. I agree. I don't know what the word or phrase is.
But something that's like rippling.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
You should make Visage too.
Yes.
But not title it Visage too.
Or something that would be cool, like if they had the address of the house.
That's what I said. That was my answer.
Okay.
Was the address of the house because it all happens there.
It would be really cool.
That's what I thought. But it would have to be a nice sounding address. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree. Because there's some ugly addresses out there.
Yeah, there are.
What would the street name be?
Ooh.
Who is like a scientist in charge of MK Ultra?
I don't know. It's all been classified.
This is true.
Or I think it was supposedly declassified in like the 90s or something.
Who the heck knows?
Who the heck knows? You can't call it MK Ultra because that's the underlying plot.
It's like too obvious.
Too obvious. Can't call it LSD.
Also too obvious. You know, I just realized Dolores' name starts with a D. Lucy's name starts with an L. And Raken's name starts with not an S. We got close, though.
What is this? Okay.
LSD. I like the address idea.
Yeah.
You're a smart guy.
You have to just figure it out a little bit. Or The Neighbors.
Oh.
Something
Hello.
from Rose's perspective.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
It needed something.
It needed something that's not like this word that you have to look up.
Just a random word. It just didn't feel like... And it still, to me, doesn't feel like it has a whole lot to do with the game. But hey, I'm not the developer, so...
Yeah, maybe there's something... But, okay. We'll get back to that. What's your next fast one?
I got it for you. We already talked about a couple of these. Talked about that. What is the scariest game you have ever played in honor of Visage? Because for me, I think it would probably be Visage.
Yeah.
We've played a lot of spooky games together.
For sure. Man, PT though. PT, as short as it was by far the most effective and disturbing game.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanically, it may not even be as good as Visage, because I mean Visage, you have 10 hours to play or 8 hours, but PT, you can probably, if you're not a scaredy cat, you can probably do it in 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But just the consistency, the quality, it's all in PT. And it's such a shame that we can't play it now, but it was such a pleasure to be able to have played it for as little time as I did, because I didn't have a PS4 at the time. Jarrett had one. My brother Dusty had one. I downloaded it on both of their consoles, and then they deleted it after I left. So, it's too bad. But hopefully, there's a light at the tunnel with all of that. Because it was just so good. Like, it did things that I wish Visage would do, like having little scribbles on the walls that would say something. There was they did pay homage to it a little bit in Visage with the radio.
Yeah.
Because the radio would come on in Visage and say that Dwayne Anderson killed his entire family.
Yeah.
But with the radio and PT, it was disturbing because it would start out as like a normal thing, and it would be like a police report of this guy who shot his family with a rifle. And then the next time you go through, it just changes and gets darker and darker. And then the radio is like, look behind you. And it starts talking to you as the player, as Norman Reedus.
That's Norman Reedus.
And it was just so incredibly terrifying. And that it was also more effective, kind of, because it was a loop. Each time you went through the hallway, it would be different. The times would start changing. Things would start changing. Doors would be open. Doors would be locked. Lisa starts appearing after, like, you poke the eyeball in the portrait. And that also had, like, the pains of eyeballs watching you. It was PT for sure. But Visage is a close second, especially since it was so heavily inspired by PT. I think that's what the developers even said. We wanted to make PT because it got canceled.
Yeah. And they did a good job.
Yeah, I agree.
It's probably the scariest game I've played. I played some PT, but I didn't play it at all like you did. This game is really effective. If you like scary games, it's a must play, I would say.
I'd say even just to stick with just to play Dolores' chapter.
Yeah.
In the beginning of Lucy's.
Yeah, I would honestly probably just do that. But it's great.
It's funny that, yeah, just play Lucy and then end high with Dolores, because that is also in the order.
Bada bing, bada boom. And then don't do Reagan.
Yeah. Forget about Reagan.
But what's your next fast one?
So, in regards to things not translating well, including, I wonder if they meant something else besides Visage, if there was like maybe another word that they wanted to use.
Village.
But I have other words here. They use rustles or rustling instead of like shuffling.
And they use hustling instead of rustling.
Yeah. And they say moaning instead of like weeping.
Yeah.
Or crying. But I have a little game that we can play.
Ooh.
In Visage, what would laughing be?
Chortling.
I was thinking like cackling.
Cackling. Just like slightly wrong.
It's just like it's the right feeling, or it puts the image in your head, but it's just off a little.
It's just a little weird.
Shouting, or what? What would shouting be?
It'd be like...
I got guttural yelping.
Yelping, that's the word. Yelping.
Footsteps, or...
Ooh. Something really, really dumb.
Scuttling.
Scuttling. I like that. Scuttling, that's the one.
Chirping?
Chirping, like from a bird.
Like from...
Squawking.
What was the bird's name? Pico?
Pico. She killed Pico.
Yeah, that was another one of those bad dialogue things where he's like, didn't you realize she killed Pico?
And the mom's like, I don't think we should shove syringes in our daughter's arms. She killed Pico.
I know. Mumbling
would be incoherent talk.
I like that. I was thinking groaning, maybe.
Groaning. I love that.
Thumping.
Thumping. Bumping.
Bumping's a good one. Last one. Flickering.
Oh, I don't know.
Quivering.
Quivering.
Or fluttering.
Fluttering. I love that.
Or they could even just like try to do the sound like like tisk tisk tisk.
Tisk 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 tisk. That's amazing. I love those. That was a great little
Thank you. That's all I got for that fast one. What's your next one?
I have a little theme where we talk about the scariest of a couple things.
Oh, I like that.
But what's the scariest dream you ever had? We talked about this recently.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a scariest dream, or you've already talked about it, you can talk about the scariest experience in real life that you've ever had.
Ooh. Maybe we'll do both. I'm trying to think of the scariest dream I've had. I mean, obviously the one about my mom in the living room.
Obviously my mom.
With the light on and everything, and she's like creeping towards me.
Mm-hmm.
That one was pretty scary. Or the Dementor while sleepwalking.
You have horrible dreams.
Yeah. Those are probably the scariest, like in a horror way, like the scariest dreams for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
The scariest situation I've been in.
Yeah.
In a paranormal or horror sense, it would have to be when you and I in Sandy, Utah, went into that abandoned house with our friends.
Freaking weird.
And it was really an abandoned house that looked like straight out of a horror game. Like everything was overgrown.
Uh-huh.
Drawers were open in like the kitchen area. That was just like a very like I'm only going in here to impress girls kind of feeling, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to look like a wuss.
Yeah, that was 100% all it was.
Or when we got scared by that homeless man in the bush and the chihuahuas.
The dogs ran
when
out.
we were walking from Salt Lake to Sandy.
That's horrifying.
That has to be. I can't think of anything else that's like scary.
I haven't had a whole lot of really scary experiences. Like I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, no. What have I had happen to me that was scary? I'm a sheltered little guy. And I don't have scary dreams, really.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen for me. And I'm very grateful.
Mm-hmm.
My scary dreams just involve, like, people I like going away. Or something.
I mean, scary situations for you and also for me are when, like... Oh, I actually have another scary situation. But when, like, you turn off the lights really fast and you run to beat the light somehow.
I run faster than the speed of the light.
But one time when I was milking goats, when we had goats, I would have to go into the barn morning and night. This was at night, obviously, and there was no moon. And for some reason, our like lantern wasn't working, so it was just pitch black. But I had a tiny little solar light in the corner that barely worked. It was the dimmest light ever, like a blue light. And I remember I put the goats away, which is already scary because it's like you're moving metal, and that kind of hurts my ears because of like I was in a car accident as a kid. So I'm already like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, like I have to do this in the dark. These loud sounds going on that I don't like. But then I walked to the end of the barn to close the last stall, and I see my shadow in the very dim light, but I see something go,
oh my God.
like go across, like a shadow go across above me, and I just booked it. I was out of there so fast. It's that feeling of like someone's right behind you in the dark.
Yeah.
I even get that. I I spook myself out sometimes. For fun.
For fun.
Like walking from the car to the front door and just like speed walking really fast. But that was so scary to me. Especially because like it's so far away in those terms of like you're scared and you want to get to safety. It is so far away from the end of my barn to the back door where like there's a little light. Man, I was running so fast.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
I never have experiences like that. I'm fine. I've never had a scary experience, so I'm glad you've had a couple though, because that would be horribly spooky.
Yeah, it's just like the hairs on your back stand up and you get those like chills. It's not a good feeling.
We should have had more scary experiences together.
I'm trying to think, did anything happen in Paraguay?
I don't think so.
I don't think we had besides being in that bus during the soccer game.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They had to turn up the lights because we would have been killed because we were wearing like the opposite uniforms.
What a wild time.
Nothing happened in Hawaii when we were together.
I mean, on my mission, I was threatened a bunch, but I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they weren't like paranormal things like...
No, it was like race things. So people just wanted to kill me. If you're getting the best one.
My wife can speak about this. When we were watching your house is the scariest house I've been in. I just got to tell you that right now.
I love it. I'm so sorry.
Being in your house when no one's there is worse than being in Rayleigh's alone.
Because it's got those long hallways.
And
lights that do not work.
Lights that don't work. You can stand at one end of the house at a certain angle. You can see to the other end of the house. Yeah, the long hallway.
And you got the dogs making noise. And
I mean, the dogs were a big deal. It was the lights going out in the kitchen.
We have a light that always flickers.
There's a light that flickers. There are just sounds in the house. And, I mean, you walk down the end of the hallway, you turn around, and there's a mirror there.
Yeah.
There's a giant mirror there. And when there's not a mirror there, there's like a portrait of Jesus. And that's scary too, because I mean, I think thematically horror and religion go hand in hand.
Yeah.
They're perfect. It's like there's nothing scarier than that. But there were times when Aspen was living at your house when you were on your mission, just like hearing things, scratches on the walls, footsteps that would like stand at her door and then never go away.
Because she lived in the bedroom I live in.
Yeah,
right?
she lived in your bedroom at the time, yeah.
It's a weird hallway. That hallway right there, yeah. It doesn't sound right.
It doesn't.
It always sounds like things are right there.
It's terrifying, dude.
Apparently, yeah, I've been living in hell for years.
It's just an odd house. It's so... There's like no light in that house.
It's completely dark. It's my mom. She loves the dark.
And like you have giant windows, but it doesn't matter.
Because she pulls the blinds all the way down. She wants to complete darkness.
Yeah, that house is terrifying.
It's funny.
I just have to say
That's so funny. I like never feel afraid, but I've lived there for
when
so
I'm in
long.
your house alone or with Aspen,
Don't feel good.
I don't like being in there. Like after the first time when the lights went out, she started just staying in the car and making me go in there and doing whatever with the dogs, and I did not like it.
That's awful.
Yeah, there's just a heavy feeling of darkness in the house. I don't like it.
My poor dad, he's going to see this. He's going to be like, he's going to finally get his wish. We're going to finally move. My dad hates living there. It's okay. My mom
I would hate it too.
This. But what's your next fast one?
Sequel?
No. I think they should make a new game in the style of Visage. But I feel like it'd be really weird.
That's
if
what I
made a
mean.
Sequel.
Really, I agree. There shouldn't be anything to do with Dwayne Johnson. But yeah, Scarier should make Visage 2 or something.
They should definitely make another game in the style of Visage. Keep it short. Don't make a bigger game. Just make it even more detailed. Make the fidelity out of this freaking world. You know what I mean?
Kind of cool, but maybe not that great. Is if they somehow did kind of like a Dark Pictures anthology, but took place in this one. Like, let's say it takes place in a hotel, and every few months they add a story, like a Dolores, to it,
Like a chapter.
Yeah. I think that would be kind of cool. Like, it opens up another room in the hotel, and that leads you into a very dark memory of the hotel.
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of cool. And they can just like do that for a while and just move on.
I like that.
Is Visage that?
I think Visage is pretty much that.
Because did Visage come out like you bought it on PC or something? Did they add Raken?
I believe they added Dolores as well. When you first bought the game, the only chapter available was Lucy, and they slowly added them.
Because maybe that's what they're doing already. They could add something else. I don't know.
I hope so. I thought this game was great, and we definitely need more from Scarier because they've got a talent for it. Mm-hmm. They just need to hire a new writer, and bada bing, bada boom.
Just have a little bit more money.
Exactly.
Someone just needs to back them up a bit.
Which hopefully they do have more money. Go buy this game. It's good.
It's a fantastic game.
If you like horror games, get this game. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, every dollar spent was totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it came out in 2018, this will be in like our end of the year. It'll be there. Like,
I think so.
We'll be talking about it for sure. I think, and it's gonna be one of those horror games that stick with us for a long time.
Oh, definitely.
Because there are very few really terrifying horror games that come out.
Like Layers of Fear is just, it's got great visuals, but it's just not scary. The second one's not scary, And there's a bunch of other games we played that I don't even remember what they're called, because we just were so hungry. we played so many,
And the thing that Visage, like, as a kind of like closing here, Visage isn't like Amnesia or these other games that are for the cheap scares like Slender Man. It's all about building up that tension to a point that you can't take it anymore, and then that's when they get you. Mm-hmm. And they'll get you with the smallest forgettable, missable detail, just like Dolores peeking around the corner. Mm-hmm. Or having Lucy just in the shadows, and like you flash your camera and she's there. It's perfect.
It's horrible.
Perfect. Do you have any more fast ones?
I have one. I have several, but I have one that I actually want to ask, like one that I feel is important that we talk about.
Okay.
And that is, if you had to make an ideal chapter for Visage, what would it be? And I can go first if you need a little bit of time to think.
Yeah. Please go first.
So my ideal chapter would be one with Rose. It would be amazing. So this is what I envision. She calls you and she tells you that she needs your help. Like something's gone wrong with her husband. You know what I mean? and you go over, and for the first 30 minutes, hour or so, you are hiding with her from something that's in the house, and she's younger, and it looks nice, and it's like put together, and the house is beautiful, and you know, you're going around, but things are odd, and she's like grooming you to be like her husband or something, like she's trying to replace her old husband. These things are kind of going on in the background. Anyways, at some point you happen upon her husband's dead body in the room, like in the comic.
In the bathtub.
The bathtub. And you realize there's nothing there. It's just her. And she's been like causing this stuff. And you kind of see her for what she is. And she's like this, you know, old, kind of disgusting, horrifying creature. Very much like The Shining. Yes.
I like that.
And the thing is, the main mechanic is that there's like an aura around her that extends to, I don't know, like 20 meters, something like that, maybe 15 meters. And in that aura, you see the house for what it is. And it's like decayed and decrepit state. But then outside of that, you see it in like the way you saw it when you first went in, the like put together way.
Yeah.
And so you can tell where she's coming because like the house will start to fall apart and get disgusting all around you. And the thing is, at first, you need to have the house in the good state to complete puzzles and to run away and to make progress. But eventually, you're forced to go towards her because you need to like break down a decayed door, or you need to, you know, make progress by using the environment that's real around her. And so you have to kind of go back and forth, and she's trying to marry you and she's trying to force you to be with her, you know. I feel like that'd have a really interesting dynamic. And I think you should kill her because it's good that the villain's a bad person, at least to an extent. And it's cathartic to end it, you know, and then you stumble out into the light and you've escaped. Very basic,
like
but I think that'd be really fun.
That was very good. Very good of you, Josh.
Thanks.
As I was thinking about it a bit more, I wish they did something with the son.
Oh, Johnny or whatever?
Yeah, whatever his name is. And they didn't really do anything with the wife either. Like, nothing was wrong with her, apparently. No. Unless she just got agitated really easily.
It's darn it, Dwayne. You don't ever talk to my daughter and you're an alcoholic.
Yeah. But it would be cool if there was something like maybe with the son where you saw the house through his eyes or what he wanted it to be, kind of like with Lucy and her imagination. But what if like the house was reversed for some whatever reason? Like that would be kind of cool. Or like being in the house upside down. I don't know why this would be his perception of the house, but I can't think of anything because like that sounds perfect. I can't think of anything that matches that right now. Because I can't, like you, I kind of want to take an existing character and somehow flesh them out and make them important to the house and to the story. Man, maybe just make Lewis Taylor a real thing.
That could be pretty good.
Like
you are Lewis Taylor?
Yeah.
And you figure out there's this experiment going on, you try to stop it, and Dwayne murders you. Pushes you into a well.
Yeah. Something like that.
I think that could be great.
There's that part where you go outside for the first time at the playground in the cemetery, which that comes and goes so fast.
Yeah, it's weird. It's there for like 30 seconds and it's gone.
Whose chapter? Is that Dolores? That was Dolores.
It's Dolores. Everything is in Dolores' chapter because it's huge.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the mirrors.
Yeah, no, I love yours. That was really good. I can't think of anything much better than that, unless it was there were some things going on with Johnny. Wait, is that his name?
I think it's John or John.
With Johnny's thing where you have like it seemed like something extraterrestrial was going on with Johnny.
Yeah, something with aliens.
And I think exploring that would be awesome. Very Silent Hill, obviously. But like something to do with the kitchen, which we didn't even talk about the talking kitchen scene.
Oh yeah.
Which was silly. But also kind of terrifying because they get louder and louder. And
silly in a good way.
yeah. like the toaster and the fridge are arguing with the oven. But it would be cool if something, alien was there. Something you could see. Maybe that would be through Johnny's eyes. You can see the aliens or something, or see how they're getting through the house, passing through it. Kind of like a Tarman thing where you see these portals or these areas where you can slip through to another plane in the house.
Ooh, I like that.
So, just like another mirror mechanic. But instead of maybe going out of the house through the mirrors, you're just going in somehow.
Ooh.
You know? Like, maybe there's something about this house. Maybe it's like an alien spaceship. Maybe it's something out of this world.
Out of this world.
But yeah, something like that would be kind of cool. Because I was really digging when we were drinking the hot chocolate.
So bizarre.
And like you teleport through the microwave into Johnny's room.
Mm-hmm.
Or sending the tiny little alien back to Seraph or wherever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I hope someone makes a game out of both of these.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Do it, Sad Square.
Come on, Sad Square. Listen to our podcast.
Get it together.
Get through the parts where we are really mean, and then make what we say into a game.
But yeah.
Is
there anything else?
That's my last real fast one.
Okay.
The other ones are all like, we don't need to do them.
Yeah, same thing with me. The last thing I was going to ask you was, how would you fix Raken? But I think the answer is just take him out.
Just replace it. Yeah.
But yeah, that was our discussion on Visage.
Wow.
On this post-Halloween episode.
That's right.
We hope you enjoyed. And please, if you did, subscribe, comment, like, share with your friends. Tell us what you think. Tell us your favorite part of Visage. Tell us your ideas for Visage chapters. Because I'm sure Sad Square is reading our comments right now. As you're listening. We're on YouTube at Futon Talks. We are on podcast services. If you want to give us a little bit of money, a little bit of cash, go to patreon.com/Futon Talks. And we'll see you on the next one.
Yes, we will. Thank you, guys. Adios.